Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, I'm going to give you a quick overview of a web-based tool that I use quite a lot. It's called Notion. Now, this tool, it lets you organize, plan, write, virtually really anything you want. There's so much power in it, but it's a very simple looking tool. Now, you can use this for all sorts. You can use it for things like personal knowledge management. You could use it as a database. You could use it for planning, for action management. The things that you can do with this really are limitless. Now, it does take a bit of imagination because Notion, as we'll see in a second, you can either start with a blank page or you can start with a template. But then you can use your imagination. You can then plan out what it is you want to do with it. The other beauty with Notion is you can start off using it with one person, but then you can start to share that information. You can share access to these pages, to these databases with other people, so you can very quickly build this into a very powerful team-based tool. And do you know what else? Notion, you can start for free. It's got a very generous free plan. So much so, I haven't even gone out of the free plan yet. But there are also paid plans available, and those plans, they give you more and more power. They introduce new features that you can use to really boost your productivity. So join me now over on the computer. We'll jump in and we'll take a look at Notion. Here we are on the computer, and what I'm doing is I'm accessing Notion through a web browser. When I'm working on my laptop, I tend to always use the web browser to use Notion. On my iPad, I use the Notion app. They look very similar. What we're going to do is actually build this Notion demo list here. Why it's here is I wanted to make sure all the steps work, so I've already been through it once where I didn't record. Now I'm going to record it as we go through. So with the way that this is set up, on the left-hand side here, this is where I can see all the pages that are in my database. So content calendar, that's the one where I actually use to plan all my videos that I do. If I just click on that now and go to by status, you can see the status of the videos I'm working on at the moment. We're going to build this in a second. There's various other databases, or pages as they call them. Most of them I'm not using anymore. I was using Notion quite heavily, but it's web-based. And what I've done is I now use Obsidian for my knowledge management, which is what a lot of these were for. So I now have migrated it to Obsidian, which is locally stored data. But anyway, let's jump on in and let's create a new page. Going down here to where it says add a page. And it gives us this, and it says it's untitled. Let's give it a name. So we're going to call it Notion Demo. Very inventive name, isn't it? The idea of a page, this is where you store the information, and that generally it's related information to one entity. There is a template, so you can go into templates, and there's loads of different templates. Some of them are free, some you have to pay for. So I can go, if I want to do maybe a goals one, there's the goals template. And I would just click use this template to start using it, and it would set up everything for me. Quick note, what it says, jotting down quick notes. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm going to click out. We're back here now at the main page, and what I want to do is I want to start building how I want this to be laid out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this database here, because this is what I want this to be. I want this to be a database or a collection of items. I'm going to click on table. We've now got a new page. On the right hand side here, this is where it says select data source. It shows you all the data sources you've already defined in your Notion workspace, your Notion database. But I'm going to create a new one, so I'm going to click new database. And this gives me what essentially looks like a blank spreadsheet, doesn't it? So with this, I go to where we say name. I'm going to go down to the first row, and I'm going to put in test entry 1. So this is the name for the first item that I want in there. Next to test entry 1, we've got the word open. If I click on that, this now opens a card, And this is where you can go in and do a lot more editing. That front page there, that's just like a spreadsheet. So it's just like a whole table with one row per entry. We can go in here and we can actually start doing some interesting stuff. What I want this page to track is the media that I'm going to create. We think about the media. Well, what types of media do I create? Well, it could be a video, it could be a podcast, or it could be a blog post. I want to have something on here to record what that type is. So I'm going to go and I want to add a property. So we've got here, add a property. If I click on that, that gives a whole list of different properties. Most of these very obvious. Text is a text, number. Select is where you can pick one item from a list. Multi-select, you can pick multiple items from a list. Status, this is something fairly new, so I don't use this very often. Date, if it's a person, so you can link maybe a contact record. Files and media, so you can upload attachments. Checkbox, URL, there's quite a few different ones. What I want to look at today for this though, is I want to be able to select the type of media. And that means only one type of media, which is a select. So I'm going to click on select. Then that gives me a little pop-up. So what do I want this name to be? I'm going to call it type of media. I try to keep my properties so they describe what I want it to hold. It's a select. Then here we've got options and we've got add an option. So I'm going to click on that add an option. I'm going to type in video. That's now added it to my list. Add another one. So we have podcast, we've got blog post, and then for a lot of these, I generally put an entry called other. So that's to handle where I get a special request for something. Maybe it's an article. And rather than having articles listed there because it's only once in a blue moon, I would say that's of type other. On the left-hand side of each of the words, we've got this little handle. So I can then drag these into the order I want. And this is the order so that usually the one that I want is at the top, second most common blog, second most common podcast, so that's below it, just so it makes it easy to get in there. Then I'm going to click outside and we can see now we've got type of media. If I go to where it says empty next to that and click on it, here we can now see there's our options. And I'm going to say, right, this is a video. So I've set that property to be video. I'm going to add a number of other properties now. I'll speed this up because it's not very interesting watching somebody typing. So I'm back now and I've added all the properties I want. So the first one, details, you can see by the little icon here, this is a text field. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some text in there. Link, this is the URL for the end video. I don't know that at the moment, so I'm going to leave it blank. Record date, if I click on that, this is a date. This is a date I'm going to record on. You can see I'm actually recording this video on the 7th of September. So I'm going to record this on the 12th of September. Release date, so that's when I publish it. I'll say maybe the 24th there. Then we've got here select. And this looks like it's the status, but select isn't right. So I'm going to click on that. So I clicked on the word select. I'm going to say rename. I'm going to call this status. That's how easy it is to change things. Now I can go and select. And here I've put a number of different statuses that I use. So at the moment, this is an idea. We've already said it's of type media. Clicking off the card, you can see here the spreadsheet part. It's updated, so it's got all this new information. But we've got this column here that was there when we created it called tags. I'm not going to be using tags in this page. So what I'm going to do is right click. I'm going to go down and say delete property. I don't need it. Let's delete it. There we go, that's now updated. So this gives us a nice table. I'm going to go away now for a few seconds and I'm going to populate this with some other data. So I've created another 3 test entries. Here we can see them, test 2, 3 and 4. I've put in my record dates, I've put in my release dates, my status and the types of media. I really am interested in getting these 4 bits of data visible when I open the record rather than seeing the details and the link. The link doesn't go until the end. The details, that's just so I've got a bit more information, so it doesn't really help me. So what I really want to do is I want to change the size and positions of some of these. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the width of the name because I don't need it so wide. I'm going to come over here now and I'm going to grab type of media and I'm going to drag it across. There we go. So I've now dragged that all the way across. So we've got that next to the name of the video, or the name of the piece of media, should I say. Do the same for status, record date, and release date. That's how easy it is to change the way things look. And again, I can then go in and say, right, these two don't need to be that wide. And neither do the dates. Brilliant. So we've now got the data in there. Doesn't really do much for us, does it? What I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this, because at the moment it's called table, but this essentially is the source data for what I'm going to be using for the rest of the demo. So I'm going to go here to where it says table. I'm going to right click, rename that, and I'm going to call this source data. The reason will become very obvious in a minute. Right, so we've renamed it. It's now called source data. A table's really good, but it's not visually attractive, is it? It doesn't give you a quick way of seeing what's happening. Notion uses the concept of views. So source data, this is just a single table view on the data. There's loads of other different views. We're going to add a new view. So next to source data, we've got the plus. If I click on that, that's now added a new view. And what I want to do is I want to have this as a board, so a bit like a Kanban board. I'm going to select board. You see there's a number of different options here. We're going to look down, so we've said it's type board. We've got card preview, so that's where I was entering the data. Group by is what I want to look at. I'm going to click on group by, and this then shows me the various bits of information that I've got. Again, click on group by. I want to group this by the status, because that's how I look at things. So I like to look at all those that are an idea, all those that I'm currently recording. So clicking on status. So as you can see there in the background, that's now changed. So if I click off there, we can see we've got editing, idea, publish, and we've got a column for each. But this isn't the order that my workflow is. Let's drag these around like we did with the table to get it into my workflow order. So ideas, they're the very first thing, so I'm going to move them over. Next, I want scripting. So there we go, there's the scripting. So we've got idea, scripting. Next, I record. So there's a record one. I then edit. It's then ready for release, and then it's published. There's a default one called no status. I always leave that there. So that's where I forget to set the status so I can very quickly see it. Now this, again, we can see we've got video test 4, test 2, test entry 1. Doesn't give me a lot of information. I'd like to get some more info on there. Things like when I'm going to be recording it and maybe even the type of media it is. So what I'd like to see is I'd like to see more. So what I'm going to do is up in this top bar here, if we go over, we've got filter, sort, we've got search, then 3 dots. I'm going to click on them 3 dots. So we can see here the layouts are board, properties one shown. Well, I would want to show more than one of my properties. So I've gone in, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to see the record date. So I'm going to click the little I, the release date, and then the type of media. So you can see by adding those on, it's changed the card. So this has got a bit more information in there. So I can now see better what it is that I'm trying to do. Click out of that, we go back to the board. If I click on one of the cards, there we go, we can go in and we can edit all of those properties. So now we've got the board view. I'm going to add another view, and this is a calendar view, because I'd like to see the videos in the order I'm going to be recording them. If I click on the plus, and then I'm going to say over here, I want a calendar. As you can see in the background, it's already changed to a calendar. Show calendar by. I want to show the calendar by the record date. It knows there's only 2 dates in there, so they're the only options it gives me. So I'm going to select the record date. I'm going to click done. I'm going to click off onto just the calendar. So now we can see here the videos that I've got and the dates they're going to be recorded. I'd like to know when they're going to be released, because sometimes that's really important. You know, you don't want to be recording something after you're meant to have released it. So I'm going to go up to the top. So like we did for the board, I'm going to go over to the 3 dots, properties, and I'm going to click to show me the release date. Close out of that. So now on my cards, I've got the name of the video or the name of the card, and I've got the date it's going to be released. Now my dates, they're all higgledy-piggledy at the moment. I like to record on a Monday. Test entry 1 is fine, that's on a Monday. But test 4, test 2, they're not. And test 3 is quite a way in the future. Now I could click on the card, go in and set the record date manually. So if I click on record date, I'm going to change this one from being the 13th to be the 19th. Click off, so we can see now September the 19th. And then when we go back, we're we can see that date has moved. It's a bit of a pain though, isn't it? A bit slow. So what I can do in this view is I can just drag a card and move it. So now test 2, we've changed to be the 26th. Test 3, currently the 10th of October. Well, I've got a blank there, so I can fetch that forward a week. Look in there, it's updated. This is really powerful. We've updated it in the calendar. If I go to the board, all the dates are now updated in the board. If I go to the source data, all the dates are updated in the source data. If I go back to the board and think, right, well, test entry 1, that's going to be recorded on the 12th of September. That means I'm actually scripting it now, aren't I? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this over. And this is where we start getting some power. So you don't have to keep going in and out of cards. You can very easily jump in and drag and drop stuff around. This is just my very quick overview of Notion. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. That's just a very, very scratching the surface look at Notion. There's so much more that it can do. And if I was to make a video with all the features I've used, it would be going on for hours. So I've tried to keep this one just enough so that you can get in and start doing something. Would you be interested in me doing some more detailed videos of Notion, maybe looking at very specific features? If you would, please drop a comment down below. Let me know that you'd like me to go into more detail. Also, let me know what are the areas you'd like me to dig into more. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.